overlook again. Shake your head, yes.
We're going to start in a couple more minutes. We're just waiting for one of our panelists to come back. He had to see if we had a clicker for the slideshow. Yeah, no kidding. No?
Me too.
All right. So I'm going to have to turn it every now and then to see which one I'm talking about. For those of you that are coming in, there's flyers at the door if you care to grab some.
Enter space bar anything.
I think we're ready to begin. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming here tonight. My name is Randy Daigle, and I am the Pre-Referendum Consolidation Committee Chairman. I would like to have each of the committee members introduce themselves first. I would also like to introduce first the architect, Silva Petroselli, Art Pomgrant, who we got out of retirement to come here to help with this committee. We have Paul Newton, the Fermi's principal. We have Tim Duffy, Enfield's principal. We have Board of Ed members and Town Council members. I'd like to start with Maureen, if you can introduce yourselves.
Maureen Brennan. Tina LeBlanc, Board of Education.
Greg Stokes from the Town Council, Liaisons.
Kyle Gallagher, from a representative.
John Daig, Enfield Public Schools Tech Ed Department Chair.
Genaro Sepulveda, Department of Public Works, Town of Enfield, staff.
Wendy Osada, Resident Committee Member.
Jamie Drizga, the Science Department Chair at Fermi High School.
Brian Brown, Assistant Principal, Fermi.
Robert Hunt, Enfield High Student Representative.
Judy Aparizi DeRoche.
Thank you. I would like to first explain the procedures for this meeting and the objectives we would like to cover. The committee will present the topics as indicated in the handouts, then open the floor to any Town of Enfield residents who wishes to ask a question or make any comments concerning tonight's topics. We each ask each person, if they would like to speak, would be required to write their names and their addresses on the forms provided at the end of the desk, and they will be called out individually. We would like to allow 5 minutes given to each person. Each person will be given one chance to speak. If time allows, we will offer everyone sign up for a second round. We will be ending the program no later than 10 o'clock. We ask that please no yelling questions or comments out to the committee. So once again, the Town of Enfield has some serious decisions to make regarding the future referendum calling the consolidation of our two public schools. We would like to discuss the benefits and the repercussions if we choose not to consolidate them. We would like to discuss the process and what it takes, what has taken place so far. It is important that everyone understands the information that we are presented tonight so the committee can make an informed decision in November. The Town Council and the Board of Ed decided that it was in the best interest of the taxpayers and the students of both high schools to proceed with the study to determine the exact condition of each high school and which school would be better suited for the consolidation. In October of 2010, the town hired a firm called GM Squared Associates in cooperation with Mayer Group and Aztec Engineering to do a complete study of all the existing conditions of both schools. Based on the results, which will be presented a little later here this evening, the Enfield High School was selected. Several months ago, the Town Council and the Board of Ed posted in the newspaper and the other media that they were accepting applications from the public for volunteers to sit on this pre-referendum committee. Over 30 applicants were submitted, and this is the committee that was selected. While all this was happening, the Town Council and the Board of Ed interviewed several architectural firms to assist in this endeavor. They hired the firm Silver Petroselli. We as the committee, we truly feel that this is a town-wide decision. Tonight we will present all the information and accept any questions and comments the public has. We would also like to hold 2 more forums to show the progress of where we are. We have also started a website for everyone to see and review our meeting minutes, progress, and what has changed. So let's get started on the presentation. The very first question everybody's been asking is, why are we considering consolidating the 2 high schools? One of the reasons is the students' population. Enrollment for both schools has decreased and is projected to continue at this trend. Some courses cannot be offered in both schools due to low participation by dividing the students into 2 schools. Now, with that being said, if you have 5 students that are interested in a class or a program at one school and 5 in another, there's not justification to have a class of 5 students, where if they were combined, it would be okay to have one teacher with 10 to 12 students. Currently, 11 teachers travel between schools in a lost duty period. Students traveling between schools also lose a course period. The state of Connecticut has passed new high school graduation requirements that currently neither high school can fulfill. Students transfer to the other high schools to take advantage of programs their high school doesn't provide. In fact, we have one of the students here that has done that, Kyle. Parents must provide transportation to those students. If this is not an option, those students who do not have transportation, unfortunately, will not be able to take those classes. The physical condition of both high schools are not in compliance with the current state in the following areas: the building code, ADA requirements, health and safety, and academically. Cost of bringing 2 schools up to the current requirements. There's only a small percentage that will be reimbursed, and I'll explain what that is. Right now, if you bring up a school, if you do any maintenance items, any updating items, or replacement of any fixtures or equipment, the state will not reimburse that. If you do new construction or renovate as new, as I'll just explain a little further, that is reimbursed. So by bringing up 2 schools, by just doing the bare minimum, you will not be reaping the benefits of being reimbursed from the state. It'll be all coming from taxpayers' money. Next slide. Why was Enfield High selected over Fermi High? The existing building type of construction. Each of these schools are built in 2 different manners. Fermi High is built on what's called a load-bearing wall type construction. That being all the walls that are supporting the roofs. Enfield High is a steel structure with concrete walls. That being that you could take down some interior walls, the structure will still be standing. So it'll be a lot cheaper to do renovations and updates and modifications to Enfield High than to Fermi High. If you want to remove 2 walls, now you've got to remove the roof system. And if there's a mechanical system on that roof at that area, that has to be redone. Contaminated soil at Fermi High. More stringent EPA requirements. As we all know, several years ago, we had to do what's called contamination, encapsulation of the contaminated soil. The EPA allowed the state to encapsulate the contaminated soil by putting several feet of clean soil over it. That is no longer allowed. Any soil that's disturbed will have to be removed, and any soil within, I believe it's a 10 to 12 foot area, would also have to be removed, back down to the 0 contamination. Enfield High's existing building is more conducive for renovations and additions due to the building type of construction and property layout. Again, the building type, it's more conducive to add on without having additional expenses. Swing space, if we were to put an addition off the parking lot area, finish that construction, students from the existing building can move into that. Then we can renovate existing buildings, existing parts of the building. At Fermi, there is no so-called swing space. We would be disrupting classrooms. We would have no place to put the students during the construction. Extensive ADA, building codes, health and safety upgrades, requirements would have to be done to Fermi. Again, there has been no additions or renovations to Fermi. They've been cited already for several of these violations. So those are mandated that we have to do. Enfield High recently did a library. Some of the areas that were required to be touched were brought up to code. So Enfield doesn't have as many required ADA health and safety violations, not violations, or updates that would have to be done opposed to what Fermi would have to do. No bond money from the state available for Fermi. $2 million of bond money from the state available to Enfield High until 2027. What that means is if we close Enfield High, the town of Enfield will owe the state of Connecticut $2 million. We still have money, we still have the funds from the addition of the library. So if we end up closing Enfield High, like I said, and opening it and doing the addition at Fermi High, we would owe the state $2 million from the library addition. Benefits of consolidating the 2 high schools. Updated IT and computer science labs, updated career technology education courses, offerings and facilities, such as auto shop, wood, metal shop, graphic arts, engineering, food culinary, and many more, a lot more. More AP and general courses to choose from, expanded band and performing arts facilities and programs, possibility of offering more sports opportunities, JV, freshman teams. That is, the possibility has a lot to do with the budget. The Board of Education does the funding for our sports program, so hopefully they'll be able to back and continue providing additional sports, such as, like we said, JV and freshman teams. There'll be more schedule and flexibility. Reduce the need for students to have extra study halls due to limited class availability. Can compete with the magnet schools. Provide students with a 21st century education. Again, benefits of consolidating the 2 high schools. The town of Enfield's state reimbursement rate is currently at 71% on every dollar spent on renovate as new. Again, renovate as new is if you were to paint this wall, you would get no reimbursement. If we were to tear the wall down and build it and paint it, it's being renovated as new, we'd be reimbursed 71% for every dollar. So any renovations, any additions, any modifications that have to do, we would do 100% renovate as new so we could reap the benefits of the 71% reimbursement. The cost of construction currently is very favorable in Connecticut. There'd be roughly $2 million per year savings on building, staff, utilities, and operation costs from consolidated into single building. Possibly solar and more energy efficient buildings. Eliminate students and teachers traveling between schools. We'd have expanded auditorium and a new cafeteria. The cost if we do nothing. This is a big subject here. A lot of people think if they shoot this referendum down, it's all going to go away. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We would have to form another referendum. The modifications, the code requirements, the ADA issues will still have to be done. But now we'd have the cost of bringing both two schools up to the current requirements. So now we would have, instead of doing one school, we'd have two schools that have all these things. And again, not all the costs are considered reimbursable in the state when we're doing that type of stuff. Possibility of fines and litigation costs for not bringing the two schools up to the current requirement. Again, Fermi already has been cited for some of the code violations that are there in ADA. We would continue to pay $2 million per year on existing building staff, utilities, and operation costs. And we would be paying escalated energy costs due to the outdated and insufficient equipment. Where we go from here? The committee will continue to meet with the architect and discuss developments, inform the public of progress through websites and more public meetings. Like I said, we'd like to hold 2 more meetings. We would like to answer as many questions, if not all of them, tonight. So the next meeting, we can really focus on the progress of where we are and where we're going with this. We have provided an HTTP site currently. The site, you can go on there. You can look at our meeting minutes. Our meetings are open to the public. The following sheet, the state requires referendum timelines, which I've attached to the last 2 pages. We're not going to go over every one of these, but this is pretty fast paced in order to meet the state requirements to submit for the referendum. I guess at this time we'd like to open the floor to any Enfield resident that'd like to have any questions answered. Wow, this could be a short meeting. There we go. Say your name. Can you please state your name and address, please?
No problem. Hold on, let me find my page. I'm Susan Braun, 17 Light Street, Enfield, Connecticut. I'm going to preface this by saying that all 3 of my children were affected by the last reorg that just happened. My son's in a kindergarten class with no aid, 20 students. Not happy there. My 3rd grader took him a long time to adjust because for some reason he thought he'd get to go to school with his younger brother. And my 8th grader lost half of his band program at JFK because of the overcrowding there. I love the fact that you're talking about expanding the band program at the high schools, except that you're not going to really have a band program if you keep killing it off at JFK. My preface. How are you planning to fulfill all the EHS students' requirements if you keep so few at this high school? The first plan that I saw was that my son would transfer in here as a freshman next year, and if the referendum passed, he'd be the last class in here and nobody else would come in behind him. I haven't heard anything more about that, and because of the reorganization that happened last time, I would kind of like you guys to start with how you're going to reorganize. The plan that I had him going to Fermi in his senior year. And I thought, oh my God, with everything we complain about the kids bullying each other, if we have an oddball in the senior class over here at EHS, they've been in a protected universe, and you're going to throw them into Fermi? I think you guys have to rethink that. How many kids are currently in Fermi? And can we actually transfer kids up to Fermi as the first plan stated, which would mean the whole freshman class would then turn into the whole sophomore whole freshman class and work its way up.
Okay, we would love to respond to these.
Yep.
Would the Board of Ed care to elaborate on the questions of transition and the student counts?
I was actually writing down her questions, and I'll go back and address them.
Okay.
If that's
Great.
okay? Or do you
That's
want-
fine.
They get
Okay.
answered.
And the last one was, we still have issues from the elementary reorg. And I know that parents are not coming to these meetings. I know why, because I hear it every time I call on parents to come to these meetings. Why bother? And I'm thinking that possibly we should really address those issues first before we start messing with the higher grades that are fine. Oh, I'm sorry. And the other lastly, in this handout, you put the cost of bringing the two schools up to current requirements. What is the cost? Because anything reimbursed by the state is also my tax dollars. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, is, I think the estimate is a $90 million referendum versus what's the cost of updating the two high schools? I'd like to hear that as well. Thank you.
Tina, would you care to answer, and I'll answer the final question?
I'll just wait for her to sit down. Okay, Sue, so if I miss one of your questions, let me know, but I think I've got them all written down. Okay. Your question is, one of your first questions is the fact that your son will be coming here as a freshman, and then the possibility of him as a senior would be going to FHS, Fermi High School, to graduate. I think you got that information from the proposed timeline that we handed out, right? Again, I have had issues with that proposed timeline, and I am reminded time and time again that it is proposed, and it's underlined, and it's in bold. That's not something that we have addressed just yet, but I will put that on my list and make sure that's something we take care of, because there were different classes that came across on that. We haven't gotten the full plan from the architect as well yet to see how we're going to use swing space, but that's definitely a concern that the Board of Education does have, as I have it with other class years that could be affected by that. I want to thank you for bringing that piece of that to our attention. I know I'm focused on that incoming freshman year, where they're not really sure where they're going to put them either. I think it was proposed to possibly go back to Stowe. So we're on top of that proposed timeline, and it was, again, just a proposal. As far as the students in FHS, I could probably get an answer from Mr. Brown. How many students are currently at Fermi right now?
Actually, I just looked it up this morning.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, I think it was 1,048 students. So rather than take a chance of being off by a little bit, let's say just about 1,050 students. I think that's a little bit high. The number is going to be somewhere between 1,020 and 1,050. Memory says to me 1,048.
Okay. And just for good measure, Mr. Sargalski, how many students are at Enfield High right now?
750.
Also, on the cost to bring up both schools to code and to prepare for the 2016 High School Reform Act, I'm not sure if I could answer that, or if that would be something Randy would be able to answer.
Yeah, I can answer that. Presently, we do not have a cost because we don't have a footprint. We are just at the very, very early stage of defining the programs, the state required for minimum programs, if we can allow to introduce new programs, what those state requirements are. So we are at the very, very early stage. We are hoping at the next public meeting we have, we'll be able to show you some renderings of proposed and some costs. Again, this is a pre-referendum if it passes, there's going to be a building committee established. That committee will come up with the exact footprint, exactly what the building's going to look like, where the additions are, all that. Right now, we're just trying to see what programs we can provide, what's the square foot requirement, and estimated dollar amount. Where exactly it goes will be the next committee that is established. Also, regarding the phase-in, that is something that the next architect will be able to discuss about phasing in the students, not only during the construction, but the students of other schools, part of the town coming in. So, fortunately, some of those will be positively answered at the next phase. Right now, we'll be able to give you a good amount. We'll be able to give you an estimate at the next one, and also somewhat of what the building possibly can look like.
I was just going to finish. Sue, I'm just going to finish on one more, on your last question, which you were talking about the $90 million figure that you would have gotten that from the GM squared report.
The two schools, until we actually hire an architectural firm to go in and come up with the exact cost, the exact violations. And again, the longer we wait, the codes change. So if we don't do it now, and we have to do it in 3 more years, there's going to be a new set of codes in the next couple of years. So it's just going to get worse. We're not trying to do a scare tactic. We're just laying it out. It is what it is. We don't have exact costs at this point. Next phase, like I said, we will. Yes, please.
Nikki Price. Nikki Price, 1324 Enfield Street. I would just like to ask a question. Are you going to have the community comment on the plans to see exactly, meaning if I feel like there's something missing, can I comment and let you know?
Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask, because you said that you're going to have all this timeline. So I was wondering when should the community input their input exactly what they want to see in the high school?
Yeah, we're open to all that, but it's not going to be chiseled in stone at this phase. But we'll take any information or any comments or concerns that you have regarding, different classrooms or different programs, and that'll be conveyed to the next architect if it passes on what the final footprint will be. But yeah, we want to make this open to the public. We don't want anybody not to have any say in this. We don't want people to say we didn't know, we're stuck with. We want this to be, it's a town decision, and we all feel we want the town involved in it. Yes.
Hi, I'm Gina Sullivan, 11 Spear Avenue. I just have a couple of questions. Sort of piggybacking Sue Braun. My concern is for the students that are going to be in the middle of this consolidation. My son is currently in 7th grade, and there's really no mention of what's going to happen with the students going through this and what's going to happen to their experience, their high school experience, their education while all of this stuff is happening. So I'm just curious about when we'll be knowing more information about that. Second, I took a look at your meeting minutes yesterday, and I would definitely suggest and support a separate website. I know you mentioned a website is coming. Not sure if that's been put together yet. If it can be separate from the school websites and the town website, that would be wonderful. And it could be a great way to keep everybody up to date, things like this, information, that type of thing. Thank you.
To answer your second question, yes, we're going to have a dedicated website just for the consolidation, and anything associated with it will be on that site. We all understand we have a hard time going through the web trying to find stuff, and we're just trying to make it as easy as possible.
Mr. Braun, 17 Light Street. You're going to get used to this. I'm having an issue with yet again hearing we don't have those facts, we don't have those figures, we don't have that number yet, we don't know our money yet. I just feel like we're going to get railroaded into something that, number one, I don't want to pay for. My younger kids, my gosh, the forms are coming in from the magnet schools already. I have no intention of keeping them in Enfield Public School if this keeps going on. We really need facts and figures, concrete stuff. This, to me, is shreddable right now. I don't understand it. I came to this meeting hoping that you guys would actually sell me on this plan, and what you've done has made me very scared.
Now, regarding, again, the cost, if we could give you the cost of what it's the estimated cost of what it could be if we were to consolidate. But there's still going to be a cost if we don't consolidate. You still have the 2 schools that have to be renovated. So what we're trying to do is limit the cost. By consolidating it to 1 school and reaping the benefits of the reimbursement, it'll lower. If let's just say a number, if it's 100,000 and we have 71%, we're going to have, you know, 30. Only going to be a 30 million. That's just a figure. But if we don't do the consolidation, we don't have the numbers yet either for if we have to do 2 schools. But there is no do nothing, cost nothing. It's going to cost. It's hard to say, but unlikely because of the reimbursement. A lot of the stuff that has to be done at both schools will not be reimbursed. So if there's $30,000 or $30 million of renovations or modifications, if the HVAC system has to be upgraded, that is not reimbursable. If we were to tear it down and put it on a new building and put a new mechanical system, that is reimbursed. So that $30 million will be 71% less. So it's not vote no, walk away. It's vote no, we'll be back, and unfortunately it may cost more because it will not be as reimbursed as a new addition would be. Yes.
Sue?
You know?
I understand what you mean. We fought that fight together for many, many years, side by side, coming to the microphone. Now I'm on this side of the microphone. When I saw, and I'm going to call on Judy and Robert Hunt for this, when I saw the graduation requirements that are coming for our students, and the fact that we can't offer what they are selling us, we need to offer by 2016, that's when I really got on board with this and started to believe in this. And I, like you, have 3 children that, 1, wasn't so much affected by the reorg, but 2 that very much were, and 2 that very much will be affected by this. And I understand Gina's point about what's going to happen to them in the mix of it. And I think maybe we need to dive a little bit deeper and let people know exactly what they're going to be looking for, what we currently offer, and focus on. To me, it's more of an educational piece that I'm focused on more than the cost savings right now, because educationally, I don't like to see that teachers are driving and losing duty periods and students are driving and they're losing course periods, or we can't offer a class because we have 5 kids here and 5 kids here. To me, that's what sells me on it. That's me. And to me, that's the cost I'm focused on right now, is the cost of the education of the children that are going to continue to go to school here. I want them to be competitive. I want them to get everything they deserve out of the school system as students. And with what's coming down the pike in 2016, I feel we really don't have any choice. And we have one opportunity now to give the students in Enfield at the high school level what they really deserve. That's just my piece.
Can you please come to the mic, please?
Kids that are coming up to the high school, right, Sue Braun, 17 West Street. The kids that are coming up to the high school now, right now, that are going to be in the 7th and 8th grade class, I think are well prepared. for what they're expecting. If they go to a high school where when they get there, all the kids they're going to graduate with are going to be there, that's all right. But I think when you look back at your reorg and the 3 to 5 classes that, oh gee, we're going to have better educational resources because we're in these little schools, 3 to 5 schools, I haven't seen that yet. It's been almost a whole year, and my brilliantly bright 3rd grader is sitting in a class doing nothing. He comes home and I educate him. My kindergartner, I educate him and then send him to afternoon kindergarten. I don't know what else to say except that you can sell me on education if Enfield was offering it now. We're not offering it now. We need to start offering it. Yes, I agree. But spending $90 million, is that really going to get it? Or are we just shooting at hoops again? You know? I mean, I see the kids getting sick on the bus every day. I've never had kids throw up on my bus before. I've had tons of kids throw up on my bus. They're on the buses too long. When they get into class, oh, gee, we've thrown up on the bus, but we're going to keep them on the bus. We get into class, now we're hungry because we've thrown up our breakfast on the bus. I don't understand this. I think these problems need to be addressed. They're not being addressed. The high school consolidation, it might be important, but I would still like to hear what the ADA compliant numbers are compared to redoing and building a whole new high school. What are these compliant numbers? I can't.
Until we're done. Because I'm going to answer. No, stay. Do you mind if I go?
Absolutely.
Sue, I just want to answer to one of the first concerns you had in your second round, which was the basics, that this is shreddable. And I understand that maybe you were expecting something different, and I think maybe what you're expecting would be in our next meeting, which is where our architect will be having a lot more concrete things to show you, and estimates and things, what things might look like. I was a big proponent of having this initial meeting because I felt like there were a lot of questions already without even seeing that report yet from the architect. And I felt it was important that people had a chance to come here, see some of the reasons why we are where we are and where we're going, and give their input. So this doesn't have a lot of specifics, but it gives you some of the reasoning of why we are where we are. So that's one thing. A lot of the things I think you're looking at are off of the GM2 report, which was a start and which was what the TCBOE Strategic Planning Committee used to get where they went. However, we have an architect firm, a different architect firm hired now, and that will be what we'll be working off of, so it will be different. One of the things that I liked most about their initial run through, this was right away when they had only been hired for a week, they just showed us something really quick, and I thought the disruption to the children looked to be a lot less in this format. Would you agree with that? And as a parent, I can understand for the several grades of kids that will be affected by the actual building and swing space and shifting of kids. Minimal disruption is a huge issue for me, and I can just speak to myself on the committee that I will have my eye out for that, and anything that can be done to minimize it without hurting the overall effect, I think will be something I would, definitely be a fan of. And I think the next meeting you'll see a lot of what you want to see, but tonight there's a lot of reasoning and whys that if you could look at might be helpful.
Sandy Downland, 12 Circle Drive. I believe that we definitely need to combine the high schools. I grew up in town when there were 500 to a graduating class, so I think it only makes sense. And my son just graduated from Fermi last year, and he had someone in his AP Physics class who had to either bike or get a ride from Enfield High to take AP Physics, which I think is, another reason it makes sense to combine. And I feel incredibly sad that, you know, the Enfield High band got decimated the past year or two. So again, combined would make sense. My main question is, I don't understand why building an entirely new building seems to have never been on the table. It might be more reimbursement, I don't know. Maybe you can all answer that. And it also might be quicker than trying to renovate and keep some students in part of the building, or some of them at Fermi High, you know, that kind of thing. So,
we are not going to demolish and put a brand new high school. What we're going to be doing is we're going to put on, is it the STEM program?
why was it ever on the table to look in the cost of an entirely new building with state-of-the-art whatever versus trying to renovate?
I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. I guess, Greg, if you were part of the decision on consolidating between
the decision to consolidate was based upon the academics and the savings. It really was not looked upon to, in earnest, to have a one brand new building on a different location, or tear down one building. The cost for tearing this down would be, you know, add to the cost. The architects previously, and I think even this architect here, would say that this is a good foundation to work with. The 71.9% reimbursement from the state is to build at new. That matches building new within the confines of this space here. It also means, you know, building a brand new building. The footprint of this building is very good to work with, from what the architects have already shared with the committee. There's a lot of possibilities that can be done to bring it up to date for STEAM, which is the, you know, the high school graduation requirements for 2016. And I know, and I do agree with everybody else in the committee here who worked hard. I think at the next presentation, where people are looking to see some kind of layout, what does it look like, would be a lot more informative and probably a lot more enjoyable to be at a meeting like that. And I agree with Maureen, this meeting was to make sure before, and this is a risk you take on a committee, when you have a public meeting before you have all the facts. We know there'll be folks that will come and saying, where's this at, where's that at? But I compliment this committee for coming forth at this time. But on this subject, I think that the footprint of this building here, the history of Enfield High School off of Route 5 in this location, works to the best avenue. The reimbursement rate would be equal if you tore it down and built up, although you'd have to have the tear down, demolishing cost of that. But I think that was the reason. I got to be honest with you, we never really contemplated it, because I think everybody knew it's better to modernize and make this building 21st century building than to demolish it all. So that, you know, but I'll be honest, it wasn't ever a big serious conversation through my term on the board or the strategic planning, because we've been gifted by, as Randy said, this building, the way it was constructed, is very easy to modify and to bring up to date with new constructions. And even some of what we have seen in pictures of possibilities, it will look like a 21st century school that every student, every parent, and would love coming to, and every person traveling for a football game will envy. So I'll leave it at that. So.
If I could mention something also, I just want to make sure that I want to clarify that build is new, because that may be a little confusing. But the initial proposal, again, not written in stone, but the initial proposal is to put an addition on to the back end of the A building, which is the front building that you see as you're coming down the hill. And it would sort of go into the senior parking lot area. So that would be a big, huge addition that would be put on to the existing structure. But the build this new piece, we would then take that main A building, except for the library and the new main office that was just redone not too long ago. Everything else is going to be gutted, right down to like the skeletal structure, and rebuilt as a brand new building. So we're pretty much just using the infrastructure, and it will be a brand new state-of-the-art building, like new. And then the same thing with, right, the D wing is so old and out of compliance that you know, again, just the initial proposal would possibly be to remove the D-wing structure altogether, and that would be the parking lot.
And I'll just add on, I mean, the committee here has had the advantage of seeing not only the academic improvements for the kids for the education, which I think are great, but the committee also has seen where the architect kind of showed us, and it wasn't put forth because it's not a final product, but they wanted us to envision what could be this high school. And one thing about it is that it takes into account our music and our arts very heavily in one area location, and it puts our science, technology, and your core areas in the same location, which with what Sergeant had mentioned here about a new wing off of A, you would have your science, technology, engineering, arts, and math in coordination with the main Part A building of it. And then in this area here, you'd have your fine arts and stuff. And so those things would be, they're thinking academically how things partner together so well. So it's not only an opportunity to save some money in that, it's an opportunity to be able to improve our current academics, but to really offer the students an environment which builds to their educational value. And the other thing is you know, we constantly go through accreditation. And accreditation, there are things that have to be done in this building for the school to stay accredited, or both schools. And so that's why they say these have to be done to both schools. If we don't get the referendum, and that's up for the voters to decide, obviously. But the fact is, there will be money spent to bring both schools up to match that, because we don't want to lose our accreditation, because many of the students, you know, out here in the audience, their families watching TV, they want their kids to be able to get into a good college. And that takes being accredited, and that takes having facilities that match what is needed. So I'll share that.
Can I add to that too? If we go ahead and we have to fix 2 buildings, we still have other issues that we're dealing with. Declining enrollment. The state opened 91 new seats in addition to the seats that are already open to correct magnet schools. So that's another 91 students we're going to lose for September. We're still going to have 5 in one school and 5 in the other, and teachers traveling between the schools. So it might fix your facility, but it's not going to fix the educational scheduling part. That to me is integral for the students to have a successful high school career.
Gina Sullivan again. Something that Greg said, talking about the committee had the opportunity to learn about the academics and different things. Anything that you can provide the public as soon as you can, things like that. Again, the website could be a great way to get it out there. I know for me, the more I can know, stuff you know, as soon as you know it, would really help, I know, ease someone like me, my fears of this whole thing.
Absolutely, and that's
and I just have one more thing to say. I know this is being recorded. I'm an avid Facebook user, and I'm just disgusted at the turnout tonight. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Gina, thank you, because many of us had talked about an independent website, because when we learned from the reorganization with the elementaries and to navigate through our school website, which is a great website, but it's geared towards general information of all sorts. So that's in the plan there. There is information out there that once our new website's up, will most likely be transferred or links to. A while back at the Strategic Planning Committee, the department heads of all the departments were asked to come in and to give an overview of what could be in a new high school. And that is on the website and currently on the school website, and gives you an idea that what could be brought forth, especially the AP classes, science and technology and the arts and everything, and even foreign languages were all talked about. So that's on the website. And all that information is part of the dynamics that make up the research for this committee. And the architects actually, when they first came to our meeting, they had already researched so much already, they were on top of it all. And so, but I do agree with you, and communication of information, not only from a community conversation like this, but also on a website, and that is definitely important, and I know that's forthcoming. So, but I do appreciate you bringing that tonight. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Brian, would you care to add regarding the existing conditions regarding the enrollment and the teachers and the students between 2 classrooms?
As it is now, because of the way we have to divide up our teachers' assignments between the two buildings. We currently have 11 teachers who are traveling who teach in more than one building. And the way that works is they go into one of the buildings, they teach 1, 2, 3 classes, they drive to the other building and complete their school day. Because they need time to drive between the two buildings, the transportation time becomes in effect their duty period, which means they don't end up getting a study hall assignment. And a study hall assignment doesn't sound very important. But for the last 2 years, what we've done is we've structured what's called math study halls. In the math study hall, a student who is struggling in math can be sent to the math study hall by their teacher, and they work on their math homework. When they have a problem, they go up to the math teacher and get one-on-one instruction from that math teacher. And we have found this to be a very successful technique for helping students get extra help when they're in need, get very specific help on a specific point of confusion, and we think it's having a very positive impact on student learning and on our math scores. We've been asked to do something similar in the English department. We literally can't do it because we don't have enough available people to man another study hall each period. As it is, we have a 7-period day, we have 7 math studies each day. If we did not have 11 teachers traveling between the schools, we could have 7 English study halls in which students struggling English could be sent to the English study hall for English support. They could be working on an essay, working on analyzing poetry, whatever the problem is. When they hit something they're not quite sure what to do, they could then walk directly to an English teacher and get that answered. So there's all kinds of instructional things that we could do outside of the classroom that we cannot do now because that's time spent with teachers in a car driving between the two buildings. If you put the 2 teachers in the one building, you eliminate all of that and you have 11 extra duty periods that can be used in a myriad of ways. Now, I'm not saying we would definitely do English study halls the way we have the math studies, but we would have the ability to do that or do something similar, something creative that would have a greater impact on student achievement than having teachers drive across town. And I think that's a significant difference in putting your students on one campus as opposed to 2.
Sure, I could add, I think having a new building is obviously very, very exciting. But for Brian and I that do the scheduling and being in the building also with some of the teachers here, having an opportunity to develop a new curriculum and adding on to our strong curriculum is just as exciting for us. Right now we are sort of bound by our fairly traditional 7-period day, and this opportunity would provide us it would be a great opportunity for us to sort of look at our day and how it's scheduled. If you look around the state, you would find a lot of high schools are modifying that typical 7-period day. You've probably heard of block scheduling. There's these alternating 6-day, 7-day cycles, 8-day cycles. You have 8-period days. There's a lot out there, and in the long run, it really just provides more opportunity for scheduling, either more courses or additional courses. What we're looking at with the consolidation and also with the new Common Core state standards, we're looking at the state is having us increase our graduation requirements, and that's something we have no control over. It's going to happen, and it's important that we look at the additional credits that are going to be required for math. We're going to go from 3 to 4 credits. We already have 4 for English. Science is going to go from our current 2 to 3. World Languages right now is an elective course, and it's such an important course. A lot of colleges require it. Now World Languages, we will require at least 2 years minimum as a graduation requirement. So there's a lot of courses coming our way that we need to be able to implement, and doing it in a 7-period day is going to be very, very difficult because essentially there are going to be a lot more conflicts. So we need to look at how we schedule our day, and we need to be able to provide a lot more flexibility. So I think with this whole endeavor, not only looking at a new building, but looking at a new curriculum and how we will deliver it is going to be extremely important. And in addition, right now we have, like I said, a very strong traditional curriculum, but we're looking at having career clusters is sort of a name that's thrown around. There's a lot of other names for it, but you've heard of STEM and STEAM, where students are going to be taking science, mathematics, engineering, and even some art courses that are all related to each other for a career track. And then we could also look at having a humanities career track where students that are strong in English and languages can focus on a humanities track, and we could have a fine arts track, and really start to specialize and have students really play to their strengths and take courses that they're strong in and can put towards a career. So that's another very important aspect of the curricular piece.
Ms. Maureen?
I just want to add to what Steve is saying. He's talking about all the increased requirements, and all of that means increased classes. An example that Judy DeRoche had given us is that about 40% of high school students now take 2 sections of a foreign language. And with the new requirements that are being state mandated come 2016, 100% of students will need to take 2 sections or more of a foreign language. So just sitting here taking that one statistic, you can figure out that we'll need more classrooms. We'll need better flexibility with scheduling, and the consolidation would help all of that. And just another note is that 2016 is coming quickly, and these new high school requirements, which are again state mandated, there's no choice but to deliver them. Those requirements would have to be delivered in 2 schools if we don't consolidate. And if we do consolidate, we are being proactive. And I think that's something a lot of our public would like to see and has wanted to see, and we're doing it. The town is being proactive. They see the writing on the wall with these new requirements, and they're looking at building a brand new high school for our students instead of being reactive come 2016, scratching heads going, how are we going to deliver this new curriculum? We can be ahead of it here, and I think that's a great thing. Thank you.
Just one more thing I wanted to add, and that had to do with the flexibility. With the Secondary School Reform Act that was passed, there was a requirement for a STEM elective in there as well. And there's also requirements for increased electives in that program. Where one of the issues we have now with the 2 high schools is even within just my own department, I have 2 travelers. There's a availability issue when you have travelers. For instance, we have 1 photography teacher and we have a graphic teacher. We have 1 CAD teacher. So there's only 2 sections of CAD available per year at Enfield High, 3 sections available at Fermi. It prevents students from it hinders students from being able to have sequential courses within a program. We offer 3 CAD courses, but there's only 2 available a year, so we end up having to cycle or rotate. And sometimes students can't finish a planned program in CAD, so that would be going into architecture or mechanical design. It prevents them being able to get into higher level graphics or being able to take photography at all if it conflicts with the core courses. And that repeats itself in other departments that have travelers as well.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the public or comments? Yes.
Okay, like I said, I'm definitely on board that consolidation is needed and upgrading and state of the art. Has it been considered with the new building that enrollment may eventually go up? Because, again, I grew up in Enfield, I've seen ebbs and flows. I mean, 9 months from the blackout we had in October, there might be a baby boom. I don't know. But, you know, and if we have a state-of-the-art high school, maybe people want to move to Enfield rather than send their students to magnet schools. Has this been considered?
Yeah, the enrollment is a tricky thing. We could only, at this point, estimate within so many years, 5, 6 years. I mean, we can't predict what's going to be 10, 12 years from now. Well, we're not going to, when we build, if we were to build the new school and renovate, it's not going to be just back to you know, absolute minimum. There's going to be some flexibility in it. It's not going to be designed for 20 and built for 20. It's you know, it's going to be flexibility. Yes.
Isn't that one of the reasons why Enfield High is being chosen over Fermi? Because there will still be the continued opportunity to expand Enfield High, as opposed to very limited opportunity to do that at Fermi because of the property layout, the way that it's landlocked with the streets on several sides, et cetera.
Yeah, that is a potential in the future. Again, like you're saying, with Fermi, once you build it, it's really can't go too much further due to the contaminated soil and other restraints that are there. Where Enfield, there's always room for additional expanses if need be.
Yes, yeah. What you're talking about is demography, and the Board of Education for the last 6 years has had to be able to find out and estimate what the population is going to be. The individual that we use to be able to calculate, we used, I think it was Dr. Prada is his name, and we used him 6 years ago, and he was pretty accurate. We used him 2 years ago, he was pretty accurate. And for this, as required from the state, we had to do, or the Board of Education had to do an updated one. They give a 7-year analysis and based on trends, and so basically it's a type of a science that's been proven. It's like they do in polling when it comes to presidential elections with a plus or minus 3% or something, but it's pretty dead on. They don't expect the trends to change. Obviously, the October storm, that will be an interesting one to watch, I agree. But in all reality, that's all taken into account. On the other side of that, just like we did with the elementaries, when we consolidated those, there was 2 buildings that were no longer being used when it came for public educations. But to the compliment of the board and town council, those buildings were not vacated and just left boarded up. They're in use, and they're in the town of Enfield inventory. And basically, if there was 12 years from now, those buildings are being maintained and could be put back online. We don't believe the trend's going to go that way. Well, just like the high school here, and this campus is good because you do have on this campus, you do have other properties that the town of Enfield owns that if the trend would have changed, which is not expected because these studies are pretty scientific and pretty right on. But I think there's been a lot of wisdom in keeping the options for the 15 years down the road there for whoever's on the council and board and administration down there. So but that's taken all into account. So.
Regarding the enrollment population, based on a study, the report that was done for the Enfield Public Schools enrollment projected until 2021, the report is dated February 2012. The projection up to 2021 to 2022 is actually still declining. We're still below what we're at 1311. Let's hope we have that problem. Yes, T.
We also, last Thursday, we actually had this exact conversation. Thank you, Robert Hunt, our student from Enfield High, is very concerned about this. We also have the magnet school students. Let's say there's 400 students that are in magnet schools right now. They can come back at any time. I'm not saying that all 400 would come back, but we need to be prepared that they always have that option to come back. And so that was something that this committee is definitely considering, and Enfield High works in that favor.
At your next meeting, are you planning to say the plans are for 2,100 kids and they can go up to 2,300 kids? Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, what's the plans going to be? Are you going to exactly have how many children, how many students you're going to have, and then you're going to have like a growth just in case if it does expand?
I will let the architect tell you exactly what he's going to provide us.
I'm Bill Silver with Silver Petroselli and Associates. We're obligated to design to the maximum enrollment in the next 16-year period. So we will be designing for 1,700 students, which is the approximate capacity right now or population of the 2 schools. And so certainly as you see the Peter Prada projections shrink to the 1,300, there will be 400 students of capacity within the school. So we do design to the current or to the maximum enrollment projection within that time window. That's an obligation of the Bureau of School Facilities that we owe. we do have a 16-year look in those population projections, yes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Are there any other comments the committee would like to express or inform the public on? Okay, again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Again, we want this to be as open forum as possible. We want everybody to be informed. We don't want anybody to feel that it was crammed down their throat or they were misinformed or didn't know about. So we will be advertising. We will have a website up that would advertise when the next public meeting will be, and we hope to see you all and hopefully many more. Thank you very much for coming out this evening.